Welcome to the Emotional Eating Unwrapped podcast. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, an emotional eating and weight loss coach for women looking to fall in love with eating, create healthy attachments with food, and lose weight sustainably. Hello and welcome to another new episode of Emotional Eating Unwrapped. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, and today we're unpacking something that lives really deep under the surface of so many food struggles. And it often goes unnamed. And what we're going to talk about today is the fantasy that hunger equals safety. So I know we often talk a lot about compulsive eating, overeating, but today's episode is actually going to be more geared towards the woman who is scared of feeling full, right? Who's really just fears that feeling when the stomach feels like it has too much food in it. And you know, when we get underneath the hood of this, a lot of times what is underneath this, and we're going to dive deeper into this, is the emptiness that you are holding on to means that you have control. That as long as you're not full, you're not failing. And I think that's a really deep insight. That's a really deep thing to think about, is that when we have emptiness in our stomach and when we feel hungry, when we have that feeling of empty, we're not a failure. And we're going to go into the psychology of restriction, the nervous system's relationship to fullness, and the emotional root of the belief that being empty is better. So let's talk about the illusion of safety through emptiness, right? Let's get into this specific part of it. Because for so many women, especially women who are more on the type A side, and I would say, you know, women that have high expectations of themselves, that are maybe hard on themselves, hunger isn't just physical, it's emotional. It provides something. It provides clarity. It means there's a clean slate, right? We associate a sense, like a sense of cleanness to it, right? And we can think that it puts us in a sense of in a state of control when everything else feels like chaos. So when your inbox is overflowing, when the kids are like, you know, unruly, when your schedule changes last minute, when your relationships feel like tightropes, when your to-do list feels super long and you're not getting enough sleep, hunger, that feeling of emptiness and even hunger can feel like order, right? It can feel like order. And it's one of the only things you control is this state of feeling. And that sense of control, that state of feeling, is addictive. It's addictive, not because you're vain, not because you're obsessed with thinness, although sometimes that can be overlapping, right? Where we start to overlap between this feeling of emptiness with thinness. But mainly it's because your nervous system has been conditioned to associate less with safe. So when you're empty, you feel like you're doing something right. You feel like you're not being too much. You're not taking up space. You're being good. And this is where this sense of control starts to feel like the only thing that feels orderly to you or safe to you, but it very quickly could turn into feeling like a jail and like you're trapped. And it slowly starts to erode your energy. It erodes your trust in your body. And it starts to really, really impact your ability to have a healthy and adaptive relationship with food. So now let's talk. We just talked about the emptiness piece. Now let's talk about the other side of this, right? When fullness feels unsafe. Because if emptiness feels like control and order, then fullness can feel like chaos. And for some of us, that feeling of fullness, it's not just physical discomfort, though we might focus in on the physical discomfort of it all. But really what's happening is that somewhere subconsciously, it becomes emotional vulnerability. So this feeling of fullness, it's not just like, oh, I feel so full, I'm so uncomfortable. It's, oh my God, I'm emotionally vulnerable right now. Because it could bring up these thoughts and belief systems like, I lost control, I overdid it, I should have known better, I failed. And these feelings can happen even if you were nourishing yourself, even if you were honoring your hunger, right? So it has nothing to do with the food itself. It has to do with the sensation of being full. And why is that? Because fullness might remind you of the very things that you've tried to suppress, which is shame, which is visibility, which is too muchness, right? Like, I'm too much. Because what happens is being full, and I'm not talking about being overstuffed. I'm just talking about like that sense of, oh, I'm full, right? Like, oh, I'm like, I feel full. You can, if you're watching on YouTube, you could see my hand gestures. But what happens is when you're full, when you're satiated, it forces you to feel. And if your body has only ever felt safe when it was restricted, right? If your body has only ever felt safe when it was empty or it was restricted, the sensation of being full can activate old trauma responses. I remember what it felt like to be stuck in the cycle of emotional eating. I tried every diet out there, counting, tracking, restricting, but nothing ever worked. Food controlled my life, my thoughts, and I constantly felt guilty after eating. But once I learned how to heal the emotional triggers behind my eating and trust my body, everything changed. I stopped obsessing over food, the weight started coming off naturally, and I found real freedom in how I ate and lived. So I created the Sober Eating year-long mentorship to help other women experience the same transformation. So you can stop battling with food, you can lose weight without deprivation, and you can feel confident in your body again. In this mentorship, you'll have access to my proven nervous system rewiring method. You'll have access to live coaching with me, weekly accountability, and a community of women who truly understand your journey. You'll also have free access to my signature programs, the Emotional Eating Solution and Decoding Permanent Weight Loss, valued at $2,000. Click the link in the show notes to explore the mentorship today. You don't have to do this alone. I'll be right there with you every step of the way. And this is often why there are these binge restrict cycles, because you feel full, you're triggering this emotional vulnerability, and then you feel guilty immediately. You punish yourself by restricting, and then the deprivation becomes too much and you binge again, right? And the restriction you think is going to give you that sense of control, but like, it doesn't. And then the cycle keeps happening. And it doesn't happen because you're broken. It's not even about the food. It doesn't happen because you can't, it doesn't happen because you can't control yourself. This isn't like a flaw in you. It's because your nervous system is trying to protect you with a survival strategy that it learned a very long time ago that's just not serving you anymore. So if we trace the origin of this, where did this all begin? And for many of us, the glorification of emptiness started when we were really young. Maybe you were praised for being really easy, like an easy child. You didn't need much. You didn't complain. Right? You were resilient. You had a lot of willpower. Resilience is very different as an adult as it is for a child, right? Kind of like when you're a resilient child, it's almost like it means that a lot of that's like, oh, you abandon your own needs. Right? And then maybe for some of you, amidst emotional chaos, food was the only area that you could manage. And somewhere along the line, food and emptiness and this feeling of never being too full and being able to sustain this emptiness feeling inside became a part of your identity. And it became a coping mechanism for you to assert power and feel empowered and in control. And like all coping mechanisms, it worked until it didn't. Right? Because if you were raised, or if you somewhere along the line got a message that taking up space was dangerous, then feeling hungry, that feeling of emptiness, became your safety blanket. Not because it made you feel good, but it made you feel in control. Right? Even when it led to late night binges, secret eating, constant obsession, even when it made your life feel really small. And this is why we can't heal emotional overeating or addictive entanglements with food and dieting with willpower alone. Because it's not about us. It's not about willpower. It's not about not being able to control food. We have to understand the deeper meaning, the deeper motivations behind the behaviors. So how do we move from this survival mode where we feel like we need to feel empty to feel in control and to feel safe, to self-trust? And we do that by reframing fullness. So like I said in the beginning of the episode, when you have this belief system that fullness is makes you vulnerable and is an unsafe place to be in your body, when you're full, you're going to feel potentially like you failed. Or like I said, it's dangerous. And so it's important that we reframe fullness, that it's not failure, it's not dangerous, but it's feedback. Fullness is your body. Fullness is just your body saying, I'm here. Right? The fullness isn't dangerous. It's actually like presence. It's a biological, physiological signal that you exist and that you are alive. Right? It's saying, I'm here, I'm fed, I'm safe, actually. And so why such a big part of healing is sitting with healthy fullness, satiety, not needing to restrict so that you feel empty or go overboard so that you feel overly stuffed and you kind of like dissociate. Why a big part of this of being able to be in a full state is so important. It's because when you could sit with fullness without judgment, without panic, without dissociating, without, going completely overboard, you begin to show your nervous system a new possibility. That you don't have to be empty to feel empowered, to be okay, to feel like the floor underneath you is solid. Nourishment in this way, it's not a failure, it's not weakness. Right? It's wisdom. So we rebuild the trust by layering in consistent meals. Right? So it's important to listen to your hunger and fullness cues, but it's also important to know generally how to nourish our bodies and make sure that we're doing that. Make sure that we are giving our bodies enough nourishment. So we layer in consistent meals, right? And it doesn't mean that you have to eat till you're stuffed. And it doesn't have to be the same thing every day. It doesn't have to be prescriptive, right? We eat before we're ravenous, right? You eat before you get starving, right? And you learn that you can feel into your meals. Right? You begin to trust. You begin to trust that, you like feeling a little overfull isn't the end of the world, right? Like you don't have to apologize for that. Right? Hunger and feeling empty is not a badge of honor. You don't have to disappear to be safe. You don't have to be empty to be in control. Right? Fullness, being full, it doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean anything. It's feedback. Okay? So it's really important that you start to really understand what relationship you have with feeling full and with feeling hungry, with feeling empty, and understanding the difference between like being ravenous and being like not hungry but not full. Understanding how to relate to food in all these different states and not try to use any of these states to fill or escape an emotion, right? To fill or to provide an emotion or to escape an emotion. All right. So that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for listening in to this episode. If you follow us on YouTube and you're watching me here, hello, please like and subscribe. You can find us on Spotify and Apple. And until next time, I'm Alana, and thank you for listening to Emotional Eating Unwrapped.